Well, boys and girls, it's finally here. I'm Berserk Cashew, and I'm here to bring you all the info on the recent release of Dragon's Dogma 2. Now, I hear you say, Cashew, why does it even matter? Why are you even releasing something that's so different from all the content on your channel we've come to know and love? Well, to that I would say, who are you and how did you get in my house? Please leave. Putting all Stalker vibes aside, I'll tell you why I've chosen to make a video about the release of the game instead of just the usual supercut of the whole thing. The quickest way to explain this is one word: microtransactions. Two words? One compound? Maybe it's a compound? Either way, they are here and people have lost their minds about it, which is really strange when a bunch of people on the internet just lose their minds over something so small so quickly. But I digress. If you are here, or if you've had access to any type of informative gaming news as of late, you will undoubtedly know that upon release of the long-awaited Dragon's Dogma 2, Capcom seemingly snuck in a booty load of microtransactions. They range from helpful combat items to restorative items and even fast travel crystals. Now, that sounds pretty bad at first glance, alright? And I'm in no way a fan of microtransactions, or any type of transaction that occurs after I buy the game. You see, I'm from days of gaming long past, where you could simply exchange a primitive form of paper currency in exchange for a strange plastic rectangle. You take it home and you jam it in a small little box of coordinating color, you press a little button, and then a whole world of wonder and challenge just erupts onto your TV. That being said, like it or not, we have all grown accustomed to this new predatory form of business that has invaded our gaming landscape. While it's no longer as rampant as it was in the days of Battlefront 2 and the court case that arose from that, it is still considered by many to be a stain on the title and the studio that chooses to include it into their product. Now, many gamers believe that while paying a little extra for custom skins or even helpful items as long as it's in a single player experience is okay, we are all very tired of having to worry if the ever greedy hands of big business is going to invade the new game we're patiently waiting for. Well, you gaming nuts, I've looked over the list. Take it from your old buddy Berserk Cashew, you can breathe a sigh of relief, okay? Although most of the items are in the form of like experience points, the rift crystals that are designed to like gain skills or alter your character. Some of the items would be useful to have kind of early game, but that's the whole thing. As I've played only about 5 or 6 hours so far, just kind of get a feel of what's going on with this game, and I haven't needed or wanted any of them. Camping gear, that's pretty important in the game. I have more camping gear than I physically can carry, because they're very heavy, and you don't need that many if you're not getting attacked. I've been able to acquire more rift crystals than I can even use right now. I have 3 pawns with me. They didn't cost anything. Keep them by your level. If you need a new one, just go get a new one for free, or maybe a couple hundred rift crystals. So there's no need to buy any of those. The only item I can see that would be kind of useful is the harpy lure, but I was able to buy that from the very first merchant I saw. Haven't used one, haven't needed it. Harpies are kind of irritating though, so that's but it's a few thousand gold in game. You can buy one very easily. The makeshift jail key, you get those just walking around. There's even a quest where you can have one like forever. I'll let other people cover that. But look, if you need more jail keys than what you find or that you could physically like reasonably buy, then you are a miscreant on the wrong side of the law. Alright, you let that sink in. So the list of items that are actually available for purchase turned out to be pretty worthless. Unless you're digging some of those sweet Tadayoshi Makino tracks. Which, I don't blame you, the game's got some pretty good sound. So why are people so upset? Well, besides the near mention of microtransactions being a proverbial dog whistle to so many, There are also some performance issues, which the devs are working on to fix right now. Most issues come from the PC, considering like how much power it takes to run. Like the recommended should be the minimum specs. But, you know, what are you going to do? Some issues stem from it being like a CPU hog. Some gamers reporting freezes, a few crashes. I've been playing on the Series X, which is supposed to have like the worst pixel mapping between the two consoles. But almost 6 hours, I've had one noticeable frame rate drop. Other than that, it looks great. It looks like a current gen game. It's really pretty. Some textures, like in flowing water, whenever there's a scene, look kind of weird. Regular flowing water is fine, but yeah, I noticed one scene where I had to break a bunch of rocks and the water come out all goopy, like the Blob from like a 1980s movie. Other than that, it's great. It's been running great. So, with the microtransactions not being that big of a deal, the performance issues being worked on, you might say, why even worry? This sounds like a normal AAA game release, as you slap me on the shoulder and let out a laugh. Well, random viewer, I would say, how the hell do you keep getting my house? Also, that does exactly sound like a boatload of newer AAA games just after release. However, the thing that has really ruffled feathers is the sneakiness of it all. None of your average consumers knew about microtransactions until Capcom announced them during the release. Like on release day. Everybody's like, what's all this about? Well, that's why they should have watched reviews from their favorite content creators, or read gaming news sites like IGN, you might say, as you go through my fridge looking for a snack. Well, to that I would say, you are correct, and that's the point. And please put that sake back, I'm saving that. From what we are hearing, many, if not most of the reviewers actually knew about the microtransactions. I've seen a few YouTube reviewers admit to being sent the list really close to the release window. However, there are certain rules you have to follow if you're releasing promotional content. One of the biggest ones is something called a review embargo. You may get an early review copy of the game, but there are specific dates and rules as to what information can be in and when it can be released. I've seen a lot of early gameplay reviews from a YouTuber, Fighting Cowboy. He's one of the best creators out there for giving you the facts and giving you as much gameplay as possible. He's really good. He goes over a lot of the bigger games and does build guides and everything. He's one of the best out there. Most of his early review gameplay can only include the first bit of the game. And sometimes he can't even use certain items. Or it will be that the review copy that some of these reviewers get, certain areas or items aren't even in the game. So I've seen conflicting reports on this. Some people say, yeah, I had the list, it didn't look like a big deal, because it's not. Other people say, oh, we weren't allowed to release it, which they probably weren't. So what should we make of this? How much outrage is appropriate when you feel like you've been lied to or duped by a multi-million-dollar company? Well, I would say some, but not enough to not play the game. I've been having a blast with it, and if I hadn't heard the outcry from the masses, I might even know the microtransactions exist. They're not taking a useful item and putting it behind a paywall, nor are they making the game a grind fest unless you dish out your hard-earned money. If someone wants to ruin their game, early game mind you, by buying all the upgrade crystals and fast travel items right at the start, let them. It's a single-player game, and nothing they do will affect the enjoyment you get out of your experience. I would say if you decide that that's too big of an issue and you're going to stay upset about it, then be upset with Capcom. Be upset with the people that decided to hide the microtransactions from the public until launch day, which I still think is a douche move. I'm not giving them a pass on that, not by any means, but the dev team did a fantastic job on this game, and they should be rewarded one way or another. Just don't be upset at the reviewers. even if they're lucky enough to have gotten a sponsor to have them review a game, any game, it doesn't mean they are owned by that sponsor, especially YouTubers. They are contract labor, and once the deal is done and the video is out, they don't owe the sponsor anything. They're not in their back pocket. They're not required to praise the game or the company for the rest of their lives. And they're certainly not in the boardroom helping to make decisions on how to market the game. I've been seeing a lot of hate for these YouTubers that have been reviewing the game. Even big places like IGN. Oh, microtransactions, they hit them because they're in bed with Capcom and they wanted people to buy the game, so they didn't tell us about it. A lot of these people either didn't know or weren't able to say anything. And at the end of the day, it winds up not being that big of a deal. It's just kind of the principle of the thing I really think that everybody's upset with. That's what I'm upset about. And when you break it down, the reviewers had nothing to do with that. There was no way they could change what they were allowed to say. So, you know what they did? They reviewed the game just like they were paid to do. Whether it was a good one, whether it was a bad one, I'm sure they get reviews all the time, companies do. If it's a bad review, they don't put it out. Here's your money, we're not going to put out your review. We didn't like what you said about our game. That happens. But this game is so good, I doubt it happened at all. So what does this whole ranting video come down to? Well, it comes down to, should you play the game? Hell yes, you should play the game. It is great. It is a little mix of Baldur's Gate 3, touch of Dragon Age, a little bit of Dark Souls sprinkled on top to add some spice. Because I'll tell you what, especially early game, there's spice. You will die, and you will die a lot. Don't let a company's bad decision make you miss out. Especially if you've been waiting for this game for a while, like I know a lot of people have. I was really leery after hearing all the controversy on launch day. I was back and forth. I don't know if I want to get it. And then Rise of the Ronin turned out to be a lot different than I thought it was going to be. And I can honestly say that was just a bunch of tabloid journalism that only serves to drag a great game into the mud. So when next time, all you gaming nuts, do your research, keep your cool, and don't go berserk.